Happy Gaudete Sunday. That's a fun word, gaudete in Latin, which means rejoice. There's much to rejoice about. For the men here, you are rejoicing because you do not have to wear pink like me. But really, there is so much to rejoice about in this season of Advent as we prepare for the coming of Christ, his birth, the nativity that we celebrate come the 25th of this month. And it's really easy to get wrapped up in all the things we have to do, right? There's so many parties that we have to go to, friends to see, people we have to shop for, gifts we have to get, trying to think of what this or that person would like. Sometimes we end up just buying something impersonal off of Amazon because it was on sale, maybe some lotion or a candle, and then we give it to that person, and then they really wonder if it's just a veiled way of us telling them that they smell. That's how it goes. And it really can easily become like we look at this season like a checklist, like we're just trying to get things done and rush through things. And I definitely have felt that more than I have any time in my life. 6 months ago, I was leaving my very first parish assignment, which was what I would call a mega parish. It had about 1,300 people that would come on the weekends on the northeast side of Indy, and going to the south side of Indy to a parish that was going to have 1,700 people at it. And not even a couple months ago, I wound up, found out I was coming here, and just being here and learning how 3 different parishes operate with 3 different communities and just all the things that happen, it's a little overwhelming. And Father Dustin one morning asked me, he's like, "How are you doing?" And I said, I think I'm doing okay. I think I have everything kind of straight. I'm trying to make a list that's prioritized and what needs to happen when. He's like, no, how are you? How are you? And I was kind of taken aback because I wasn't expecting to be asked that. That's not something I get asked often. And it just kind of shifted my perspective. And it reminds me of a time in my life when I was, about 10 years ago or so, when I was in college, and I was very concerned with what I was doing. And I was doing all of the right things in the terms of the world. I was going to school, making good grades. I had friends. I had money. I had a job for after graduation. I was kind of set in terms of the world. And the second to last year of college, I met these people called Focus missionaries. I thought they were very weird. They were Catholic missionaries, and they weren't priests and they weren't nuns. I was a little confused by that. And then on top of that, they invited me to a Bible study. And I was like, that's what Protestants do. We're Catholic. We don't do that. I had no idea. And I got to know them over the course of those 2 years, and they became good friends of mine. And they invited me, I remember my last year, to a conference. It was kind of like a big retreat. And they said, if you go to one of these, it could change your life forever. And I remember replying, yeah, I don't believe that at all. But I decided to go anyway. I'd never been to Dallas. I figured I'd travel, try it out. And I remember the first night I was there, they had an incredible speaker. And he spoke about 2 things that really resonated with me. The first being how we're in the midst of a spiritual battle, right? We see so much violence and strife and war in our world, and there's just so much going on, so much turmoil. And the reason for that is actually because that's mirroring the spiritual reality. You see, in the spiritual reality, it's a war between angels and demons and us, right? Because it's a war for the destiny of our souls, where we will end up. And there's only 2 outcomes. We could choose to be on the side of Christ victorious, or we could choose the side of Satan. We could choose to abandon God like him, and to not choose a side is to choose the side of the devil. And we could choose to embrace our adoption as beloved sons and daughters of God. Or we could turn our back and choose to be orphans. It's up to us. And the second point is what most people's relationship with the Lord looks like. Most people really only deem the Lord worthy of attention whenever they need something. You go to him, you try to barter, maybe trying to pass a test or whatever that is, and say that you'll do something. Maybe you'll start going back to Mass, or maybe even a daily Mass, or something like that. And then the time comes and you don't usually uphold your end of the bargain. It's just a relationship of use, where you just take and take. And I realized that that was me. I knew in my heart of hearts that that's exactly what my relationship with God was like. And I knew I didn't want to be that kind of person. I've met people like that, and I didn't want to do that, especially to God. And so I went the next morning to confession, and I just asked the priest, how do I have this deeper relationship with God? What does that look like? And he told me to listen to God in the silence. Sometimes you can hear his voice. And I figured, okay, we'll give this a shot. And so, in adoration, I was sitting before the Lord, and I said, Lord, I have everything that should make me happy. I'm doing all the right things, but I'm not satisfied. I don't feel fulfilled. What do you want me to do with my life? What do you want me to do? And I heard 3 words. I love you. I love you. That was his response. And he didn't even answer my question. Because I was asking him and was so concerned about what I was to do, expecting him to say, I want you to be a priest or go do something. But he focused on the relationship, our relationship. Because that's the most important thing. And it caught me off guard, and I wept. I was not expecting that answer. And so often in our lives, it's so easy to be caught up in the whirlwind of things going on whenever it dumps snow randomly, whenever we have a random Mass on a Monday in December that we have to go to, or just Sunday Masses. Sometimes we can just get so bogged down by all the things we have to accomplish. And it helps to remember and shift our gaze to what we're actually doing and why we're doing it, right? Because we're preparing and doing these events and going to these parties. We go to Mass to be with those that we love, to enjoy their company, their fellowship. We come to Mass to be in relationship with our Lord, to offer him thanks for all the gifts that he gives us, and to let him transform our lives. That's really what it's about. It's not just a checklist. Yes, we have things we must accomplish, and we have to do these duties, but it's not really about checking the list, right? It's about who we are and who we are with, and how we love each other. And it helps, I think, in this midpoint of Advent to remember that, to turn back to the Lord. And that's why we'll have this time of adoration here at the very end of Mass, to spend some time in silence, to spend some time in front of the Lord, in front of his heart that is made present to us in the most holy Eucharist that is placed in a monstrance on this altar, to share our hearts with him, because he actually wants to know what's going on, what's on our minds, what cares do we have, what concerns us, what is on our heart. He actually wants to know these things. And it's such a great opportunity to give those to him. Say, Lord, I'm struggling with this right now. I have this thing going on in my family. I don't know what to do. Or Lord, thank you for these blessings that you've given me this week. It's been a really good week. But to be able to hand them to him, that's actually the whole reason we're required to come to Mass. Holy Communion is the greatest gift. But it's not only about receiving that. It's actually about us giving our hearts also to the Lord. About us offering our sacrifice, our concerns, our prayers, those people we care about, and bringing them to him. And doing that every single week. And it helps to remind us that we are not slaves. We are not meant to just be busybodies. But we're human beings not human doers, not human doings. We're meant to love and to be loved, to be given in love. And there is no greater thing than we can do than to embody that love that is the God that we worship.